Hello and welcome to Saints Live. I'm Steve Forbes.
I'm Kenzie Benali.
And today we're here for the pre- and post-match coverage of Southampton's trip to West London to take on Chelsea in the Premier League. Now, as you can see, we're in slightly different settings now. And Kenzie, I can't quite feel my fingers, but how nice is it to be back pitch side at St Mary's?
It's so nice, yeah, finally home again. But like you say, it's a little bit bad timing. They've decided to pop us out here in October. A little bit chilly.
Yeah, not during the restart in July.
No.
Well, two gentlemen who are probably very warm in their homes and who are joining us for their insight and analysis this week are former Saints captain Dean Hammond and former writer for the Southern Daily Echo, Adam Leach. Gentlemen, how have you been? Enjoyed the international break?
Very well, thank you, very well.
Yeah, likewise. Been good, thanks. Been enjoying it. And yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. It's lovely and warm where I am.
Very smug and
very
cosy. Well, let's dive straight into today's game then, shall we? Because team news is less than 15 minutes away now, and we're not quite sure which way this team is going to go. We know that Stuart Armstrong is unlikely to feature after receiving a positive COVID test. We know Moussa Djenepo is injured. Ibrahima Diallo is unlikely to feature, according to Ralph in his press conference, but we might see Theo Walcott. We don't know. Ralph did allude to the fact that he could start today, and we do know that Nathan Redmond is now fully fit again, so of course he's back in contention as well. I want to ask you both this. Dean, we'll start with you though. How do you assess Ralph's options today, and what do you expect him to do?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, Kenzie, because obviously there's going to be some enforced changes, especially in the wide areas. The two players that started last game are obviously not available, which is unfortunate because it was such a good performance and such a professional performance, especially the last two league games. But obviously with Theo Walcott coming to the club, which I think is an excellent signing, very astute by the football club, it'd be interesting to see if he comes into the team. Nathan Redmond, I would suggest, is probably fit now because he's had some time over the international break to get his fitness up. So it'll be interesting to see if he comes into the team. Does that change the balance of the team? We know the manager is very comfortable in the formation he plays and the system that he plays, so I don't think that will change. But apart from the wide areas, I don't think the team will change at all. I think the last two performances have been really, really good. Players are feeling more comfortable with each other. They're building relationships with playing together. So I think the question mark is just who will come in at wide, or what in the wide areas, and will it be two out-and-out attacking players, or will Smallbone come into the team as well? So I think they're the questions that will be asked, and we'll find out very soon what the manager will do.
Well, Adam, what are your thoughts on this? How do you think Saints will line up to take on Chelsea today?
Yeah, I'm pretty similar to Dean, really. I think there's a strong argument, if assuming that Walcott and Redmond are 100% fit to play, to bring them into those wide areas. I mean, Stuart Armstrong will be a bit of a miss. I mean, the work rate he gives you from a defensive capacity as well, I think, against a team like Chelsea will mean he's a bit of a miss. But otherwise, I think you would probably try and stick with a similar team. I mean, they're doing well. I guess there is also a question mark at centre-half, simply because Vestergaard hasn't always been as comfortable against pace, and Chelsea have got pace. But I think, the way things are at the moment, 2 wins on the spin going into the break, you stick with it and you only make the changes you have to make.
Yeah, now Saints, they signed 2 players in the last 36 hours of the transfer window. Ibrahima Diallo and Theo Walcott returns to the club, which are a defensive midfielder and an attacking winger. Dean, what do you make of the strength in those areas now?
Very, very good. I mean, I watched some YouTube clips of Diallo during the week, and he looks like a very, very impressive player. Looks like a midfield player that's box to box, defensively minded, but very comfortable on the ball, very athletic, aggressive in the tackle. So I think he'll be an excellent addition to the squad. He's young, he's hungry. So I think, again, it's another very good signing by Southampton. They've got a good history with recruitment at the football club, so very good signing. And Theo Walcott coming back into the club is a brilliant signing. I think it's something that Southampton have been very clever in doing. I think it's what Theo needs as well, to come back and be loved, to be part of a club that he's used to. He knows the history of the club. He knows what the club is all about. I think he'd enjoy playing under the manager in the style that the team play in. Very tack-minded, so we get opportunities to score goals and create. It will be interesting to see where he plays, because you read reports, Theo Walcott all his career has wanted to play as a number 9 and play up front, but obviously Danny Ings and Shay Adams have got that partnership at the moment, but also he can play wide. So them areas are looking very, very strong, and competition for places is so important in teams. If you've got players pushing each other in training, in games, if you can feel the pressures from players that are not in the team, it only makes you improve and play better. So I think it's been an excellent transfer window by the club, and 2 additions to the group that are very exciting.
Well, Adam, a lot of fans have actually been saying that this is one of the best transfer windows in years. Dean's obviously pleased as well. What do you make of the business for Southampton in this transfer window?
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Kenzie. I think it is one of the best transfer windows for a long time. And obviously there's a lot of focus on who's come in, and that's understandable. But I tend to look at it in the round and look at what's gone out as well. I mean, the club have been hamstrung for quite a number of years by some expensive and poor signings that have been made, and while those players have sort of been shoved out temporarily on loan after loan after loan, you're never going to start to be able to rebuild and properly rebuild the squad to the depth that you require whilst they were still on the books and you're still carrying a large proportion of their wages. We've seen a large number of those players move on. Players like Carrillo, Boufal, Wesley Hoyt. I know Lemina's only out on loan, but he's gone as well. And I think that those are as significant as the incomings for me, because the clearing the decks a little bit of the dead wood, and very expensive dead wood as well. It's been a painful process because they've taken a massive haircut on the money they've spent on these guys. But nonetheless, you can't go back, you can't rewrite history. But to move forward and to progress, you have to financially be in a position to bring new players in, to be able to pay them what is required. And they haven't been in a position to do enough of that because of these signings. So for me, it's very positive that they've manoeuvred themselves into a position whereby I think not just this transfer window, but future transfer windows, they've really got a chance to properly improve and to give Ralph the depth of squad that he needs to progress the club. So all in all, very pleased.
Yeah, well, speaking of Ralph, we can now hear from the manager on those signings of Theo Walcott and Ibrahima Diallo.
I think we spoke about 2 to 3 signings we want to do anymore, and I think with Diallo and Walcott we are definitely now better ball and balanced. We had some issues, and finally I think we have now more alternatives for all the games that are coming up.
I know Ibrahima has been away on international duty, but are both those guys kind of fit to go straight into the squad on Saturday? Is that the plan?
Yeah, for Ibrahima it's a little bit more difficult. He was not here the whole week. He has one session yesterday. He's just starting working with him. It would take a little bit longer, I think, with Ibrahima than with Theo. Theo, with all the injuries we have now in the 10 position, with Stewie out, with Musa out, he has more chance to play on the weekend. And finally, we need every player, you see, but we have all the time to develop them.
Well, great to hear from Ralph there, and we will be bringing you the team news in just under 3 minutes' time now. Lots of fans highly anticipating that team news. A few of you wanting to see Theo Walcott making his second debut for the club. Saints FC vlog has said on YouTube, I'm watching in cold Southampton. We can vouch for that. It is very cold. He wants to see a 2-1 win for the Saints today. Theo Walcott and Danny Ings to score. How great would that be? Ronan has also got in touch. He's going for a 2-0 win for the Saints today. He thinks it will be Obafemi and Redmond with the goals. Comment hit from Alan as well. He says, tough game. I would take a 2-2 draw.
Yeah, fair enough. Right, so Ralph was saying there that Theo Walcott has got more of a chance of going straight into the squad with both Gineppo and Armstrong out. Adam, how frustrating is it for Gineppo with his career at Saints being hampered so much by injuries?
Oh, it's hugely frustrating, Steve. I mean, it's infuriating, really, and you can't get mad at a player for being injured, but it's just really annoying. I mean, we talked earlier in the season about is this the biggest year for Gineppo compared to anybody else in the Saints squad, and I sort of said, well, possibly it is, and that's not because there's any question mark over the guy's ability, but the consistency of the amount of times he gets out on the pitch just just simply isn't good enough right now. They need more out of him. They need him to be available more often. That's not just an issue for the player. It's obviously an issue for the club to physically try and get him in a position where he can do that. And I'm sure they are working very hard, and he's working very hard to do that. But it's incredibly annoying and frustrating for Saints, and I'm sure for Ralph as well, to not really be able to rely on him to be a fit for any period of time. And that's something that really has to change if he's going to have a major impact at Saints, which I think when you look at his ability and the raw attributes he's got, there is every chance he could have. But he's just got to be able to get on the pitch more often.
Well, we'll be bringing you that team news in under a minute's time now. If you have just joined us, welcome to Saints Live. We are encouraging the fans to get in touch with us. Send us in your thoughts. You've got plenty of time to tell us what you think will happen with the team news today. Will Theo Walcott start? Will we be seeing Nathan Redmond reintroduced again to the side? Well, we are about to find out, Steve. Lots and lots of anticipation across our social channels. It's always great to hear from you, the fans. Let's have one or two comments before we bring that team news to you. Fiona has got in touch. Hello to you. She says, come on Saints, bring us the win. And Rob has said it is going to be a tough one today, and he's going for a 1-0 win. But the embargo is over. We can bring you the team news. It's 2 o'clock. There it is. It's on your screens. Let's take a look at how the Saints will shape up today to take on Chelsea. In goal, Alex McCarthy. Ralph is sticking with that centre-back pairing of Yannick Vestergaard and Jan Bednarek. Either side of them at the back is Carl Walker-Peters and Ryan Bertrand. In front of them in midfield is our captain James Ward-Prowse and Oriol Romeu. On the wing, Nathan Redmond's been given the nod, and so too has Theo Walcott. Lots of fans will be very happy to see him back, starting and making his second debut today for Southampton. Danny Ings returns from international duty for England to make up the Saints attack alongside Shay Adams. And looking at the Southampton bench then, we have Fraser Forster, Jack Stevens, Jan Valery, Ibrahima Diallo, Nathan Teller, Shane Long and Michael Obafemi. Okay, so there it is. We weren't quite sure how that was going to play out, but Theo Walcott does start. Dean, we'll come to you first. What do you make of that starting 11?
Well, it's a very exciting starting 11. I must admit, the front four will get you excited. There's lots of pace, lots of creativity. It's very brave from the manager. I like the move he's making. From the team he's picked, he looks like Southampton are going to go to Chelsea and really attack and try and probably outscore Chelsea. He sees that potentially as a weakness. I think the two centre midfield players and the back four and the goalkeeper are going to have to be especially resilient today. They're going to have to be very, very disciplined. They're going to have to cover a lot of ground, cover a lot of areas. Because attacking players obviously love attacking, but they can switch off defensively when they don't have the ball. So yeah, it's an exciting team, and it'd be really good to see Theo Walcott back in the Southampton shirt. Nathan Redmond, I really like him as a player. He dribbles the ball, he's exciting, he creates things. And the front two, I mean, the partnership they're creating is brilliant, and I can't wait to see that develop over the season. So a very attacking team, and I would have thought there will be some goals today. So brave for the manager, but I'm looking forward to watching it play out today.
And Adam, what do you make of this lineup?
Yeah, similar to Dean, really. I think it's brave, but I also think that whilst being brave, it's also sensible. It's not foolhardy. When you look at what Ralph kind of has available to him today, it makes sense, really, to kind of take on a more attacking theme. If he were to have said, right, I'm going to try and shut up shop a bit more, I'm not going to play Redmond and or Walcott, then he would have had to start shuffling players out of position to try and make that happen. I think it would have all got a little bit messy. I think sometimes as a manager, you've just got to say, you know what, we might be playing a good team, but I've just got to pick the strongest players that I've got for those positions. And if that happens to be a more attacking team, then I need to believe that we can outscore our opponents, or at least we can do enough to cause them some problems and really put them under pressure and see what they're made of. And I think that's what Ralph's done today, and I would absolutely commend him for it. You know, it would be easy if this goes the wrong way to say after the game, oh, you know, he went too attacking. But I think when you look at it now, it's fair to say this is actually probably the most sensible team to pick for him, as well as also being brave because it's so attacking. So it's really, really exciting to see how they get on.
Yeah, now looking at the back four, it remains unchanged. Before the international break, there were back-to-back clean sheets. Looking particularly at the partnership between Vestergaard and Bednarek, what are you going to make of their chances against Chelsea today, Dean? And do you think it's now hard for Jack Stephens to get back in?
I think it is hard for Jack to get back in because the two centre-halves that have played the last two games have performed very, very well. And rightly so, I think, deserve to keep the shirt. They've been very professional, they've defended well, they've done the basics particularly well in the games, kept a clean sheet. So I think it's the right decision. I think Vestergaard mentally is in a good position, personally. I think the players are familiarising themselves with him. I think he's proven to the squad that he's a valuable member, and he's playing particularly well. And the one thing I like about him, he's very calm on the ball. I feel it's a little bit unlucky for Jack because he had such a good season last year, especially towards the end, and he's definitely the future of the club. But he will get back into the team at some point. But I like what the manager does. If I was a player playing in the Southampton team and if I knew that I just had to perform well personally and play my best for the team and I kept my position, that's all you can ask for as a player. So I think it's brilliant from the manager is keeping them to. And yes, Chelsea are going to cause them different problems today with their movement, with their rotation, with their pace. But I think it's the right decision by the manager. And Jack will just now have to be a little bit more patient.
Well, Adam, let's talk about Stuart Armstrong now then. We did anticipate that he'd be missing today, but do you think that his absence will be more noticeable given his defensive qualities against a side like Chelsea?
Well, I think had he been fit and available, he would have played. I'd be pretty confident of that for the reasons that you just said, Kenzie. But I also think, sometimes an opportunity comes because something's forced upon you, and it's an unfortunate situation with Stuart, and we obviously will wish him well and a speedy recovery. But in his place, there's an opportunity, and the club have just signed Theo Walcott. Nathan Redmond's an incredibly exciting player that's been playing very well for a couple of years for Saints now, and so it would be great to see what the two of them look like playing together with Danny and with Che up front as well. What is that attacking four like? And I think the one thing I would say is that with the four they've got, you've not got any slouches or passengers there, because actually the four of them are actually all very industrious players, as well as being talented, skillful, having some pace, having ability in the box. Depending, on which one we're talking about, they've got a lot of individual qualities, but they are also industrious. All of them. They're not slackers. They're not a flair player that the rest of the team are carrying. So they are capable of shouldering the work. They just need to be mentally disciplined, but they're not afraid to put in a shift. So I don't see any reason to kind of fear the team that's put out today. I think it's very exciting. And while they will miss Stu Armstrong, great opportunity to take a look at what this four looks like. Because if this four works out, and you've got Stu Armstrong, you've got Gineppo as well, I mean, wow, they've got some serious firepower up there now, Saints, and an ability to outgun teams as well, potentially. So it'd be great to see what that looks like.
Yeah, it is going to be really exciting, isn't it? Now, we have just come back from the international break, so we'll have a quick word on England. Danny Ings got his first start and goal against Wales. Dean, what did you make of his overall performance in that game, and was it a bit disappointing that you didn't get more opportunities in the other fixtures?
I think to start with, we just have to congratulate him for obviously getting his first start again, and what a fantastic goal. Brilliant for him. It's just Danny Ings all over it. He's in the box and he scores a great goal, which is fantastic for him and for his confidence and for the club. Yes, I would be slightly disappointed if, personally I'd scored a goal like that and had an effect on the team and then didn't really get any more minutes within the remaining games. So that's frustrating. I think it'll be frustrating for him that he actually started wide of the three and didn't play centrally. But it's always going to be a tough task for Danny, because Harry Kane will play in his position and is captain of the country. So I think it's great for him that he's gone there, he's got his start and he's scored a goal, and he'll be proving to Gareth Southgate every time they train together, every time he has an opportunity, what a good player he is. And that's all he can do, score for his club and score for his country. and keep chipping away. But I think with the career that Danny's had and how well he's played and how well he's progressing now, he'll just be very grateful that he is getting these opportunities now and he's injury free. But he's a professional footballer and he's a goal scorer, so he'll be frustrated that he's not playing regularly because he keeps proving himself week in and week out. But no, I think we should congratulate him because, it's always brilliant to score for your country.
Yeah, many congratulations indeed. So proud of him and Prowsey as well, of course. Now, before we talk more about today's game, we are going to look back to a game that happened on this day in 2009 when a certain Dean Hammond scored his first goal for Southampton in a 3-1 win over Oldham at Boundary Park. Now, that was an important win because that lifted the Saints off the bottom of the League One table after starting the season on -10 points. Before we recap that though, let's remind ourselves of what happened on that day. Here's the highlights.
Lloyd James is over this corner. Not a bad delivery, it's a free header. Dean Hammond couldn't miss. And inside a quarter of an hour, Southampton strike first at Boundary Park. They're looking to climb off the bottom of the table with a third straight league win. And they've been aided by some slack marking there. Lambert over the set piece as ever. It's gone through Dean Brill's hands. Ricky Lambert makes it 2-0. Well, Ricky Lambert cost a lot of money, £1 million in fact from Bristol Rovers. This is his 12th league game and that's his 7th goal. Back it goes to Brill, who's under pressure. What an opportunity for 3. It's another goalkeeping error. And it's a terrible effort. Oldham have certainly improved in this second period. This is an excellent run from Alex Marrow off the post. Abbott strikes it home. And Oldham are very much back in this game. Lambert looks like he'll hit it. What an effort off the uprights. Brilliant from Ricky Lambert, so close to a second. Confident defending. Oh, but Oldham have shot themselves in the foot. Here's Connolly to wrap it up. Call as you like. Brill thought he was going for the opposite corner. He went for the near post. He celebrates in front of the travelling fans. It's 3 wins on the bounce for Southampton. And if Wycombe don't pick up points, then the Saints will be off the bottom of the table for the first time this season.
Well, I certainly enjoyed watching those highlights back.
As did I. I'm sure Dean did too.
Yeah. Well, Dean, we will come to you first then. Man of the moment there, with a leap of salmon would be proud of for that goal. Talk us through it.
Yeah, well, it was nice to obviously get my first Southampton goal. I can't believe how young I look, to be fair. And I can't believe we were bottom of one, that you see where the club is now. So I was actually under a bit of pressure from Alan Pardew at the time to get my first goal. I'd been there. I think I'd been at the club a few months, I think, and he brought me to the club to potentially get some more goals from midfield. So he was giving me a bit of stick at the time, so a bit of relief. But it was actually a corner routine that we've been working on a long time, and one that I'd used previously at Brighton with Dean Wilkins, who was obviously a coach at the time. And it almost come off a couple of times. It was a block that Ricky would do for me. Because everyone would think that Ricky would attack the ball, but he would block my play and I'd try and get free and try and get a head on it. So yeah, always nice to get my first Southampton goal, and I probably, like all my goals, I celebrated them like I'd scored from the halfway line, which they never were like that, unfortunately, but I had to enjoy them because there wasn't that many. But no, it was always good to get my first goal for Southampton.
Personally think the keeper should have done better there, Dean.
Savage. No, we loved it.
Don't take it away from me, please.
Adam's just silently laughing away there. Adam, we're going to come to you next then. Ricky Lambert, of course, scored in that game as well. Not really one of his best, but do you think that was the start of his real amazing period for the Saints?
Yeah, it was. I mean, yeah, if Dean Brill, the goalkeeper that day's watching, I mean, he's going to be having kittens now, having shown that goal, and with Steve having blamed him for Dean's as well. But yeah, it wasn't a Ricky classic as we came to know it and come to know them. And isn't it typical of a game like football or any ball sport that the one that you don't hit very well goes in, the one from the halfway line clips the bar, and the other free kick hits the post. It's absolute worldie. So. But I mean, yeah, for Ricky, it was kind of getting his feet, like for the whole team, it was kind of finding their feet, really getting going, getting a rhythm and momentum. and understanding. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't really need saying, does it, that Ricky was an amazing signing for Saints and a great player. And yeah, the bandwagon was kind of just beginning to roll into motion. But I guess, in truth, none of us at that point thought it would continue in the way that it did. And his fairy tale ascent from the guy who worked in the beetroot factory to playing for England and scoring for England would go quite the way it did. So yeah, I mean, we're all smiling, but it's because happy memories of those days, really happy memories of that team, that bunch of guys, and the way they played.
And that goal actually kick-started his scoring streak of 11 goals in 12 games, so it was an important one.
Yeah, well, you also saw him in the highlights there take a shot from the halfway line that hit the bar. We can see it again now. I mean, that must have proved how much confidence he was playing with. But Dean, how much confidence was in the side at that point, considering such a tough start?
I think we were just getting to grips with what Alan Pardew wanted us to do. We'd been working hard in training. There was obviously a lot of new players that come into the club. Alan was obviously only the manager from the beginning of the season. Dean Wilkins had come in as coach. I think Wally Downs had just come in as coach then as well. So we were getting lots of new messages from all different people. And as a team, we obviously knew there was some expectation, even though we were bottom of the league and started on minus 10 points. But yeah, I think we were just starting to get the grips with how we could play and how good we potentially could be with all the hard work we put in. And, you know, we had some exceptional players at the club even at that time. They may have been young, but they were very, very talented. So, yeah, I think that was potentially the start. And obviously getting off the bottom of the league was our first target of the season. And then try and get out of the relegation zones. But, you know, Ricky was, like Adam say, you could sit all day and talk about Ricky. He was a fantastic player and scored some fantastic goals. Wasn't one of his best on that day, but that was just down to one thing Ricky did when he first came into the club. He worked exceptionally hard on his fitness. He lost a lot of weight and he toned up a lot, and that was from he would be in the gym before training and potentially the gym after training. And a lot of people probably wouldn't associate that with Ricky because he was a heavier stocked player, but he did work really, really hard when he first came to the club to get himself into condition to become the player he did. So full credit to him.
Adam, Dean just said there that getting off the bottom of the table in League One was the first target. It was undoubtedly a tough start to life in League One, just one win from the first 10 games. But was that game where it all seemed to click into place?
Well, that was definitely about the time it all clicked into place. I have to make a slight confession here that I thought that I didn't remember the game, so I assumed I hadn't been there. So I knew we were going to talk about this, so I looked it up and found that I had actually been there, and I wrote a 1,000-word report.
Really?
And there were only 24 words on Dean's goal, and two of those were his name. So sorry about that, Dean.
Dean, are you going to have that?
No,
bad now. But yeah, I mean, looking back at the report, it was interesting because it also took me to some of the quotes from the manager of Oldham at the time, and the Saints, I think, had recently played Southend and had a sort of decent performance away from home. And reading that was really interesting because it just kind of put back into context of what Saints were up against at the time. Because as Dean said, it was a new bunch of players, a new manager, but more than that, a pressure and an expectation on that bunch of players. So not only were they trying to learn how to play, gel as a group, gel as a team, but they had a big target on their back because I think at the time it was the second most expensively assembled League One squad of all time. The older manager before that game said something that we heard week in, week out, which was they've got one player in Ricky Lambert who's cost more than our entire squad. So, you know, Saints had a target on their back. People wanted to beat them because they saw them as a sort of rich boy millionaire club of League One. And so that was difficult for the team as well, while they were trying to gel and get together under all this pressure. And they had to work out as well, like all good winning teams do, all great teams do, that they had to go out and match the intensity and the work rate and of their opponents, because that's the one thing their opponents would be motivated to bring. They knew that they weren't as good as Saints, most of the teams, but they would come out and they would work as hard as they could. The same as you would associate a Saints doing now against a Man City or a Liverpool, perhaps. And so Saints had to work out not only how they were playing, but that they had to match that intensity and then believe that their superior ability would get them the wins. In the end, that happened, of course, and the rest is history, as they did so well. But it was kind of a pivotal time because they were under an awful lot of pressure because they were still trying to gel and learn as a team, and because of the way that opponents were making life very difficult for them physically. So important that they came through that, and at places like Oldham, which, though I don't remember going, I assume was a difficult place to go.
Dean, thinking back, I mean, what was the ambition for that season at the start? I mean, was reaching the playoffs the target, or was that a bit unrealistic considering you started on minus 10 points?
No, it wasn't unrealistic. It was definitely the target. When I first signed for the club, I was led to believe, and I was encouraged by the manager and the coaching staff that we were going for the playoffs this season. We're going to try and get promoted. That was the ambition of the football club. Yes, it was obvious it was going to be difficult, and like Adam's just said, it was very tough at times because you're playing against teams that really wanted to beat you. I know that sounds silly because you're playing in a competitive sport and everyone wants to win, but you're the giants of the league, really. Even though we were bottom of the league, we were the biggest club in the league. We'd spent a lot of money. We had the best players. We played in a beautiful stadium on a brilliant pitch. Everyone enjoyed coming to play against us, unless we were on top form. And I remember some weeks it was really tough. But no, it was definitely the target to get into the playoffs. I think automatic was obviously unrealistic. We had good spells during the season, and Alan Pardew made it very, very obvious at the start and very clear that he wanted to win the Paints Trophy, because he told us that would obviously winning games would breed confidence. The more games you win, the more chance you've got of getting into a rhythm and a momentum, like we speak about on the show every week. So it was definitely the target. We believed it as players. Yeah, we fell short, and I think we fell short just because there were some good teams in that league that year, and we were competing, obviously chasing, but it was the start of everything. I think after January, when the club really bought, Jose Fonte in, bought Jason Puncheon in, Lee Barnard in, you looked at that squad and you just thought, okay, it's only a matter of time. If we don't do it this year, it's definitely going to happen. And that was just, as a player, I remember sitting in the dressing room every week. As captain, I would take the team sheet to go and meet the other captain, and I'd look at our team and look at their team, no disrespect, and I'd think, it's a pleasure to play in this team. There's only going to be one winner today. Like Adam said, if we turn up and match the intensity and work harder than them, we'll win. And that was just brilliant.
Well, Adam, not only did Dean score his first goal for the Saints that day, which of course you remember so well, but also David Connolly scored on his debut for Southampton. We've spoken about him on the show before. He obviously had a wealth of experience, even though he did have a few struggles with injury. What did you make of the Saints signing him at the time?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like a good signing in terms of just signing somebody with a bit extra guile and experience, I suppose, as well, and a sort of predatory finishing instinct. I mean, the only thing that held David back from probably having an even better career up until that point was his injury record, as we spoke a little bit about with Musa, kind of not being able to get on the pitch often enough, rather than any question over his actual ability. So I think we all felt, wow, this is a guy with an awful lot of quality coming into a League One team, and I think we felt it about quite a few of the signings, that maybe kind of League One perhaps was a little bit beneath some of the quality of the players that Saints had, but because of the size of the club and the ambition to be able to, and the ability to be able to progress, it seemed like a good move. And yeah, David Connolly delivered what you wanted from him: experience, quality, and some goals. And he was one of those guys that if he got a chance, 9 times out of 10, you'd expect him to bury it, as he did against Oldham.
Well, great to look back on that game from 2009. We're going to come back to the current day now, though, looking at a few more comments from you, the fans at home. Lots of you very, very excited to see Theo in a Saints shirt once again. Roger's got in touch on Facebook. Hello to you. He says, Walcott and Redmond are very similar players. It will be interesting to see them play together. Reese, good afternoon. He says, Theo to start and to score. Well, you've got the first one. Let's see if we can tick the second one off for you later on. on. Nikki, hiya. She says Danny will be hungry for goals after being with England. I'm sure he certainly will be. Andy, hello to you. He says if Saints keep playing well, it will be a top 10 spot finish for this season. And a comment here from Jeff. He says, I hope Walcott fits in with the rest of the team. Yeah. Now, I hope you've all prepped for this next segment because right at the start of the season, we did start a Fantasy Premier League. I don't mean to brag, by the way, guys, but I currently sit 3,177th in the official Saints Live League. How are you getting on? Let's start with you, Dean.
Well, I'm not doing as well as you, Steve, to be honest. Which is not a good start. And I think, like I said at the beginning, I think the first show, I've never played fantasy football before, so yeah, I've probably not made the best signings, and this is probably a clear indication why I shouldn't be a manager or a coach, because I'm not doing particularly well. I've probably forgotten about my team, which is not good as well.
Oh, come on.
Which is not the best thing to do as a manager. I've made some changes today, I must admit. De Bruyne has come out because obviously he's injured. Maddison's come in. Who else? I think I've taken Jamie Vardy out because Leicester don't play today and put Richarlison in, but I don't know if he scored for Everton. So, yeah, it's I'm not the best at this, but there's time. We're only, with the 5th game in, so I can always catch up.
And Adam, how are you doing in the standings? Have you made any changes to your team?
No, my team is called Transfers Are for Wimps, and so as the title goes, I refuse to make any transfers. Even like seeing the team today and Gineppo, I knew he was injured, but I'm not taking him out. He's staying in because that would be against all my principles. These principles have landed me in 3,488th place in the league table at the moment. So they're going well. I decided I'd click through to get to have a look at where I was in the table. I think I've got an RSI in my finger now from clicking through so many players together. And I've got Joe Linton up front, I noticed, for Newcastle, who's got 4 points, which I can only assume is for turning up.
Yeah, strong decision there.
Absolutely nothing else. But I did know, though, there's a lot of stats this gives you. So it said 0.2% of teams have got Joe Linton in. So I worked that out. That's 15,000 other mugs like me who have picked him out of 7.5 million. So, I mean, I'm not alone in terrible, terrible selections. So, I mean, at least that's something.
Yeah. I mean, I took Timo Werner out of my side, Kenzie, and replaced him with Dominic Calvert-Lewin. So I'm really hoping that doesn't bite me in the bum today. It won't. I did the exact same thing as you. And remember, if you fancy a little boost of the ego, you can join our fantasy league. The code is B7X61H. Come and play along. It's really fun, I promise you. And we'd love to see as many of you as possible in our league. Yeah, the position to beat is 3,177th. I'm not even going to tell you where I am because you're doing better than I am. Right, so let's look at today's game, shall we? Now, it's against the big spending Chelsea, who signed some huge players for big fees over the summer. They're undoubtedly going to be the favourites today, but they're not without their frailties. They did go 3-0 down to West Brom, ended up drawing that game 3-3. Adam, what have the Saints got to do today to pull off a win?
Well, I think given the nature of the team they've played, they're going to have to attack well. They're going to have to try and probably outscore Chelsea. I think it's an interesting time to be playing Chelsea. We saw that with West Brom as well. I think Saints are going to get chances today. Chelsea obviously made a lot of new signings. They're coming together as a team. They're gelling. That's a process that is going to take them a bit of time. And they are going to have frailties, I think, until they've kind of got their act together, as it were. And then you would expect, with the quality of players that they've recruited, that they will be extremely strong and formidable. But it's going to take them a while to exactly get to that point. They've got a lot of quality in attack. They are probably going to cause Saints a lot of problems today. It's probably going to be quite hard to keep them out. So Saints, given the quality of their attack, need to try and take advantage of the frailties that are obviously there at Chelsea. Try and keep it as tight as they can, and then outscore Chelsea if they can. I think it's as simple as that. I don't know that we'll see another 3-3, but it's pretty hard to see many clean sheets on the pitch today. I think when you look at the teams and you look at where the clubs are at the moment. So I would say, if you consider playing away at Chelsea, you consider playing away at Stamford Bridge as being a very difficult game. This is probably one of those occasions where you feel like Saints have got a chance of getting something today.
Yeah, it is going to be a tough fixture, but we're looking forward to it. Dean, what have you made of Chelsea's start to the season so far, and what do we need to do today to exploit them?
I think they're in a transition. They've made some really good signings, and they've had a good transfer window as well, I think, and had their business done early. So they know they're in a transition. They wanted the players in early so they could settle in. I think they've won 2, drawn 1, lost 1. So probably about where they should be. I don't think they're title contenders. I think they're building a club again with Frank in charge as a young manager, and he's bringing younger players in that are hungry and are going to take time to settle in. So they're still a top team. They'll be battling for the top 4. But I think now thinking about it, I can see why the manager has brought Redmond in. He's brought Walcott in. The club, the team will keep a shape at certain points and then break with pace. And having pace in the team with them 4 up front can exploit the areas that Chelsea leave when they've got the ball. So when we turn over possession, when Chelsea lose possession, the wide areas will be free because the fullbacks of Chelsea push on really, really high. So Danny Ings and Shea Adams and Theo can get into them wide areas. Redmond can run with the ball and it can exploit the defence and run at the defence. So I agree with Adam. It's going to be a game where Southampton are going to have to take their chances and defend very, very well and be disciplined and just frustrate Chelsea and just be patient in the defensive shape and then just really break with pace and get numbers in the box.
Yeah, now Oriol Romeu, he's up against his former club today. Dean, you praised him last time on the show. Do you think his role is now even more important for this game?
Definitely. I think he's brilliant. He's playing against his former club. I think he's come a talisman for Southampton. He does such a good job for the team. It goes unnoticed a bit, and obviously as a midfield player, I can really appreciate what he does. He breaks up play very, very well. His positioning sense is excellent. Yes, does he have some missed time challenges? Of course, like every midfielder does. But he keeps the ball very well. His possession stats must be excellent. And he's becoming a real leader, I think. And he's a real calming presence within the team. So he'll need to be disciplined today. He'll need to hold that position in the middle of the pitch, especially when we do break as well, and commit bodies forward. He needs to just stay in the middle of the pitch, keep the shape and communicate well to James Ward-Prowse. But he has to be very disciplined today, and he's got that knack of, if you watch him, he very rarely gives the ball away, and Southampton are going to need that today, where they're going to need spells of keeping the ball, and whether that's going backwards, sideways, there's times for that to suck Chelsea in and then exploit them and find that gap in between and then attack them with pace. So I think he's become a very important player, and I love watching him play. I think he's had to be patient with his Southampton career, but I think this could be his time.
Adam, let's move the chat on to Yannick Vestergaard then. After back-to-back clean sheets for the Saints, is Ralph right to keep him in the side today?
I think on balance, yes. I think it is right. Partly because he deserves to keep his place, and as Dean said earlier in the show, I think for players it's important to feel like if you're playing well that you're not going to get dropped. You could have made the argument for sure as to why you would replace him, given the type of player that Chelsea have in attack. But I think it's probably sensible, and given that also Ralph has got 2 kind of enforced changes today, given it's a winning team, you don't want to unsettle it any more than you have to. And if you've already got to make a couple of changes, then probably sensible. And I think Yannick, I think Dean was spot on with what he said earlier. I think he's kind of growing into his role now and in the team and really finding his feet. It's interesting that even though he's got quite a bit of stick at times from sections of supporters, that there has been interest in him from other Premier League clubs when he's been kind of seemed like he's a bit more on the fringes, which says quite a lot, I think, because it says that other managers are seeing things in him and positive traits in him as well that perhaps Saints fans haven't always seen. But I feel like at the moment he's growing as a player, and yeah, give him his chance. I mean, it's difficult for Jack because Jack's played well consistently over a period of time, but Yannick deserves his chance, and I think that the shirt is his until he loses it at the moment, and I can't really argue with Ralph for going with that.
Right, gentlemen, so it's nearly time for us to depart. Kick-off is just under half an hour away at Stamford Bridge, but it's time to get those predictions in. So Dean, we'll come to you first. What do you reckon the score is going to be today?
I think it'll be a tough game for Southampton. Chelsea are always strong at home, and they'll want to win the game. They'll be on the front foot, but I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. I think there'll be goals today at both ends. I think Southampton are going to have to ride their luck at times and be very disciplined. But I think we'll get chances like West Brom did against Chelsea and score 3 goals. I think, like Adam said, I don't think it'll be 3-3 today, but I think there'll definitely be goals, and Southampton are a real threat. So if they can be tight at the back, I'll go for a 2-2 draw. And
what do you reckon, Adam?
Well, my head is telling me that Chelsea will probably edge it, but my heart is pulling me towards a draw. So I think I will go for that, and I will say 1-1, I think.
Okay, well, gents, it's time for us to say goodbye. Premier League action does resume for the Saints in just over 25 minutes' time, but we will be back after the final whistle for another episode of the final whistle. So if you enjoyed what you saw on Saints Live, make sure you tune in and join us for that. Dean, Adam, thank you so much for your company as always, and of course a huge thank you to all of the fans for tuning in as well. We'll see you after the game. Bye for now.